So it's Friday night, and here I sit because Scully doesn't have much of a life. And he wanted me to stay and read him some ghost stories, so we're staying in tonight. Go figure. Well, hello, my spooky friends and wonderful wild weirdos. Yeah, it is starting the weekend, but I'm working this weekend, so it's really not yeehaw end of the week for me anyway. So we might as well read some ghost stories and, you know, maybe he'll let me sleep. How are y'all doing? I mean, if you didn't notice my southern accent, I'm from Alabama, and it is hot, 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 if you know what I mean. But we have some great stories tonight sent in by you, my subscribers. So grab a cold drink and let's get into it. Our first story comes from Bethlehem. My dog came to me when the doctor put a hole in my stomach and I was hospitalized for 4 days. I was so distraught about everything going wrong, I needed comfort, and my beagle had just passed shortly before this happened. I saw him pacing around my bed, and when I laid down to rest, I became very calm because he slept with me every night. I needed his visit. Aw, that is so sweet. You know, we see so many stories of past animals that are still with us. And isn't that a great comfort? I mean, there might be a few that I wouldn't want to hunt me in the afterlife, but most of them, I like to think that they're around me and that, when I change dimensions or planes and it's my time, that I'll get to see them again. So I think that did give you a lot of calming, and I am sure that's what your little dog was doing. What a sweet story. This one comes from Winston. I used to do wet plate photography, and we were taking a picture of a lady inside a bedroom in an old rebuilt plantation house in Mississippi. It's difficult to take wet plate pictures inside because the light is low. So I was running back and forth outside the darkroom to develop the pictures until we found one that was good enough. At the top of the stairs, there was only one bedroom to the right, and the hall went down to the left to the rest of the bedrooms. We were in the only bedroom to the right and at the top of the stairs. As I was running back up, a lady in her early 20s who looked like Liv Tyler in a very pretty lacy dress that was way too fancy for camping in Mississippi in the summer ran out of the room everyone else was in and told me we had to leave and we were not allowed to be there. So I go in the room and tell my partner that we have to leave, but the curator of the museum was in the room too, and nobody else saw her. He asked me what she looked like. When I described her, he said, "No one works here that looks like that," and had gave us permission. That night, when we were looking through all the reject pictures that were good enough to keep but not to sell, the lady showed up in one of the pictures sitting behind the lady who was actually our customer. When we showed the curator the picture the next morning, he takes us into the house and there is a huge portrait way up by the ceiling of this lady. She's front on in the painting, but profile in our pictures, so there's no way that it was any kind of reflection. Everything that was in that bedroom was that lady's while she was alive. I still have this picture 20 years later. I would love to see that picture, Winston. Wet plate photography has always fascinated me, and that is really cool that you do that. The fact that she looked like Liv Tyler, well, at least she was pretty, But the nerve telling you have to leave. I guess she figured this is her house and she wasn't in the mood for any pictures. There are just some days where, like, get that camera away from me. That must have been one of her days, or she just didn't like it. But to actually capture that on, a wet plate, that is so cool. Again, I would love to see it. Kathy Young says, "You want to experience true ghosts? Work in a nursing home." Yeah, I agree. You'll get more than you bargained for. I worked in one back in 87 to 88, working second shift. My partner was a black lady who was a great friend of mine, and we worked well together. One night we were doing final bed check, changing soiled bedding, changing diapers. We just started using those on patients, making one last check before going off shift to make sure everyone was comfortable. Our last patient that night was a pitiful older lady whose body had sort of frozen up on her. We were repositioning her, actually had her up in midair, turning her when her spirit left her body, and we both saw it. We hurriedly finished and reported what happened, and sure enough, when the RN checked, the lady had passed. My partner and I sat in the nurse's station and just stared at each other. Finally, she said, "Did you see it?" "Yeah, I saw it." We never talked about it again, but we were both spooked for the next week or so. Yeah, I mean, especially if she was all frozen up and then you were positioning her. I mean, it's like what happened? She was passing, and in the middle of the flip, she just went whoo right on out. I mean, I that would kind of be a cool way to go. I'm not gonna lie. Just hop right out of your body while you're being turned. And although I have never seen a spirit leave a body, I think that is super cool. And we have lots of stories like that. Okay, this one is by Roberta Real. "I'm not a nurse, but I did care for my mother's friend when she was diagnosed with metastatic lung cancer. She had a whole parade of unseen family visiting her, making her laugh and keeping her company. One of the things she mentioned about her visitors were there were these fat and friendly little kids coming to see her, but didn't know them. I've always thought they could have been angels of some kind, maybe cherubim. Hmm. We hear about kids a lot in hospitals and whatnot, and usually they're just normal kids, or sometimes they're dressed in old fashioned clothes. Remember, we hear that a lot. But fat and friendly little kids, I don't know. It kind of makes you wonder, why were they fat? It does more sound like a cherub, or at least the way that they're portrayed in pictures, which, I mean, in all honesty, probably is not accurate, but who knows? But I guess these kids were well fed in the afterlife, and hey, good for them. Ain't nobody wants to be hungry after you die, okay? Luen Riffle says, "Hello, this happened to me several years ago. I went to a clinic doctor's building. It was known to be haunted. I wanted to know why I received a bill for a doctor I had never seen. Turns out he gave a second opinion for an x-ray I had. When I got out of an elevator and was walking down the hallway, two people stopped me, a young woman and an older gentleman. She called him father. They tried to warn me about going to see this or a doctor down the hallway. When I was talking to them, I noticed she was half in and half out of a closed heavy door, just like a ghost would." Ooh. He said, "Don't pay any attention to her. It was like mind controlling me." I turned around. Okay, this story is like really weird. She's half in and out the door, and you feel like this other guy, this ghost, is mind controlling you. This is crazy, y'all. I turned around when they went the opposite way down the hallway, but when I got around the corner following them, they were nowhere in sight. I walked on my way to the doctor's office. Two women were watching monitors with the hallway visible. They asked me who was I talking to. They didn't see them. I later learned that a man took his daughter to a doctor to have her pregnancy terminated, and she died in the doctor's office. The father blamed himself and died a very short time afterwards. Oh no. And they are known to haunt this building. Oh wow. Okay, so maybe that is why you felt like he was mind controlling you, like he didn't want anybody to know. He was so ashamed and grieving, or wow. And that would explain her being half in and half out the door. That is a crazy story. And it's really sad if, he is reliving that. I mean, we've talked about it. Are ghosts reliving this, or is it like an imprint, like a movie where the emotion is so strong that it just replays over and over? That seems to be what most people think. I don't know. But I sure don't want to see somebody half in and out, half out the door. Okay. Wow, that is a cool story. Thank you so much for sharing. This one comes from Christian Aguarino. Did I say that right? Oh, Christiana Guarino. I'll get it right one of these days, y'all. Hello, everyone. My name is Christiana. This is my son's little YouTube channel. Okay? Anyways, I'm 36 years old and had to have a hysterectomy and blood transfusion a couple of weeks ago. Not an organ transplant, but I still had to receive someone else's blood because my blood levels dropped seriously low. I noticed after the transplant that my personality was different. I spoke to my pastor's wife, and she said the same thing happened to her for at least several weeks when she had her transfusion. Now, we've heard a lot of people saying how when they have organ transplants, they have weird cravings, that their personality changes. We've heard a lot of stories. Now, the good thing about a blood transfusion is blood cells die off pretty fast. So it would only be, a short period of time before your own blood level reaches normal again and it's just your cells. But I think that's very interesting. I really want to study more into, the woo-woo part of organ transplants and transfusions. Now, I used to donate blood a whole lot of times. So, I mean, I don't know. Did they have uncontrollable cravings for chocolate and coffee? I mean, I'm just saying. And tacos. Yeah, tacos. This one is submitted by SY. RN here. I was working on the neuro unit and we had 3 deaths in one shift. Oh, God, that's horrible. That's happened to me too. It's bad. One of those who died was my patient. Right after she passed, I went to the restroom. As I was doing my business, the lights went out. I screamed bloody murder. Yeah, it was creepy. The light came back on in like 5 to 10 seconds, but that was the scariest 5 to 10 seconds ever for me. I was going to jump up poopy and run if those lights didn't come back when they did. I can see myself doing that. Like, sometimes it doesn't matter. Like, you're sitting in the dark. If you're in a hospital and those kind of bathrooms, like, there is no light anywhere. Like, it is dark, dark. And I've had that happen until, the generator kicks on. And in a day like that where you've lost 3 patients and, yeah, there could be multiple ghosts around, yeah. Oh, I'm glad it didn't come to that. And those lights did come back on. But that was funny. Oh, wow. But man, what a day. Those days are hard. Thank you so much for submitting that. Beth Swanson says, I was a neonatal nurse at a hospital where the labor and delivery was down the back hall from us from the nursery. The night nurses, sorry, I'm still laughing about the jumping up poopy. The night nurses heard faucets turn on, flush toilets, doors, and curtains open or close without human hand in unoccupied rooms. As I entered the hallway to do my usual emergency cart and warmer checks myself, since this night the labor area was empty, only the basic lighting was on. I started to walk down the hall and saw a shadow move across the nurse's station out to the hall and move to one of our labor and delivery rooms. After realizing I really did see this, I walked into that room. The oxygen had been left on from the previous delivery earlier. Oh my gosh. And was empty. So I connected a full O2 tank and finished my checks. Later that night, when it was now busy in the labor area, I attended a premature birth in that room. Needless to say, that shadow saved that baby's life. I felt different about our ghost after that. Well, yeah, because with a preemie like that, you would have to have the oxygen. That would be fatal if that oxygen tank, if that's what you're using or whatever, was off or not working. Yeah, so I guess you have a friendly ghost that was giving you a heads up. That's crazy. Scully, how come you never warned me about anything? You know, what's up with that? And you wonder why you're alone on a Friday night. I'm just saying. Okay, so that is all the ghost stories I have for you right now. I hope you have a great week and you are able to cool off wherever you are living and it's not 100 degrees like it is here. Anyway, I will see you next time, but in the meantime, make sure you drink plenty of water and whatever you do, just stay spooky. Okay? Bye bye.